Sometimes the system that sees everything can't see the truth. Malcolm Reeves built the algorithm meant to make the world safer. But one ordinary morning, it looked at his face and saw a criminal. This is not just a glitch in the code. It's a reflection of what the code learned from us. They said Echelon Systems was the future. Glass towers, self-driving shuttles, and an AI that could recognize every face on Earth with 99.9% accuracy. Malcolm Reeves smiled the first time he heard that line in a commercial. He wrote part of the code that made that promise possible. For 7 years, he'd lived and breathed the company's ambition. He'd arrived as a quiet prodigy from Howard University, the son of 2 school teachers who believed math could move mountains. At Echelon, he built models that could learn faster than any human mind, and yet, he often felt unseen inside the place he helped create. Every Monday, the executive meeting filled with voices that spoke in metrics and market share. Malcolm's voice came last. People listened when the graphs froze, when performance dipped, when something needed fixing, but rarely when he talked about fairness. He'd once told his manager, "Accuracy without equity is still a failure." The comment was met with polite silence and a quick change of topic. Still he stayed. Because he believed in the mission, technology without prejudice. That mission looked good on banners. But in code reviews and hallway jokes, he felt the hairline cracks forming. When the facial recognition team began testing in real-world environments, Malcolm noticed patterns. Darker-skinned faces misread more often, women of color tagged with unknown confidence, subtle labels that told a bigger story. He brought it up in a meeting. Our training data is skewed. The model performs worse on darker complexions. The room went quiet for a beat. Then the product manager laughed lightly. The system doesn't see race, Malcolm. Data is neutral. He almost smiled at the irony. Data is never neutral if humans collect it. The conversation ended with a shrug and a slide change. Weeks passed, product launches happened, and the company's stock climbed. The world began to rely on Echelon Vision, their flagship AI used by airports, security firms, even local police departments. Malcolm watched it expand with pride and worry mixed like oil and water. He told himself he'd stay long enough to make the system better from the inside. He didn't know the inside would soon turn on him. It was a Thursday morning in late September. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and ozone from the server rooms below. Malcolm wore the same navy jacket he always wore for early meetings. His keycard beeped at the glass gate, but the gate didn't open. He tried again. Red light. Access denied. He frowned and glanced toward security. A new guard, a tall man with an earpiece, looked up. "Sir, can I see your ID?" Malcolm smiled politely, holding up his badge. "Sure. The system's probably glitching again." The guard scanned it, waited, then stiffened. "Sir, I need you to step aside." "What's going on?" The man's radio crackled. We might have a match. Code F-17. Possible individual flagged by Echelon Vision database." Malcolm blinked, half amused. "That's impossible. I wrote part of that database." The guard didn't smile. 2 more security officers approached. People in the lobby slowed their steps, whispering. Phones tilted upward, always the same quiet chorus of screens ready to record. Malcolm felt a sudden coldness crawl across his spine. He reached for calm. "Check again. There must be an error." One guard looked at his tablet. The system confirmed a facial match with a wanted suspect in the Orion robbery case. He laughed, soft disbelief. "You think Look, pull up the metadata. Check the timestamp, the camera ID. You'll see the match confidence is wrong." But protocol had already taken over. The words "possible threat" carried more weight than reason. Someone said, "Sir, please keep your hands visible." He obeyed, palms open. Inside, a strange dual awareness formed, part humiliation, part engineer's curiosity. How could the model misfire like this? He'd built safeguards, cross-checks, manual review steps. Yet here he was, treated as the bug itself. The next 5 minutes unfolded in slow motion. HR appeared, confused. His manager called from upstairs. And still, the security system refused to clear him. The AI's certainty score blinked 99.2%. That number, the same one they bragged about in commercials, was now the iron door between him and his own office. Eventually the police arrived. Local officers trained to respond when Echelon Vision sent alerts. They looked at Malcolm, then at the tablet, and chose the tablet. "Sir, we just need to verify downtown. You'll be released once we confirm." He wanted to shout, "Confirm with what? With the algorithm that already condemned me?" But he didn't. He'd learned long ago that anger from a black man in a glass lobby turns into headlines faster than any data transfer. As they escorted him through the front doors, he caught his reflection in the building's chrome logo. His face mirrored back under the words Echelon Systems. Seeing the world clearly. The irony almost made him laugh. Almost. News travels faster than truth. By the time he was fingerprinted at the downtown precinct, someone had already uploaded footage titled, AI Genius Detained by His Own Tech. Views climbed by the hour. Inside the holding room, Malcolm sat staring at the fluorescent light hum. He replayed every design choice, every line of code. He remembered the meeting where he'd said, "We need more diverse datasets." They nodded, filed it under Future Improvements, and moved on. Now the future had arrived, and it wore handcuffs. After 6 hours, a detective entered holding a tablet. She looked tired, maybe embarrassed. "Mr. Reeves, we verified your ID. You're free to go." False match. He studied her face. Just like that. She hesitated. The system made an error. He almost asked which one, the software or the humans who believed it. But he just nodded, signed papers and left. Outside, cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. "Mr. Reeves, is it true you built the algorithm? Do you think the tech is racist?" He said nothing. That night, he sat in his apartment overlooking the city he helped wire with cameras. Notifications filled his phone. Messages from colleagues, apologies from executives, angry tweets demanding answers. He scrolled through them all until one message stopped him. His mother's text. "Are you okay, baby?" He typed back, "Yeah, Mom. Just tired." Then he stared at the blinking cursor and whispered to himself, "I made something that doesn't know me." The next morning, Echelon Systems released a statement. A technical anomaly in Echelon Vision led to a false identification. "We are reviewing procedures to ensure accuracy for all users." Malcolm read the words on a news site and felt the hollowness of anomaly. It wasn't an anomaly, it was a mirror. At work, HR suggested he take a few days off. When he returned, people greeted him with awkward smiles, like he was both a celebrity and ghost. Someone had taped a newspaper clipping to his desk. "Engineer cleared after AI mix-up." The headline made it sound like bad weather. He went straight to the server room. The hum of machines was comforting. Machines didn't fake sympathy. He pulled up the logs from the day of the incident. There it was. Match ID 453B7, confidence 99.2%, camera station 14. The photo compared his face to a suspect who shared nothing but skin tone. Every variable told the same story, bias baked into the data. He drafted a report, 10 pages, clear evidence, proposed fixes. He called it Project Equity. He sent it to the executive board. No one replied for a week. Then an email from legal arrived. "Appreciate your passion, Malcolm, but we advise discretion until the PR review concludes." Discretion. That word cut deeper than the accusation. Still he kept coding. Late nights, empty cafeteria, lights humming above him like unspoken thoughts. He began rewriting sections of the algorithm quietly. Adding fairness constraints, rebalancing datasets, teaching the machine to see everyone, not just those it was trained to trust. But someone noticed. His manager called him into a meeting with 2 executives. "Malcolm, we heard you've been modifying production code outside approved channels." He nodded. "I'm correcting a bias that's hurting people." The compliance officer sighed. "That's admirable, but changes like that require board approval. You're putting the company at risk." He leaned forward. "The company is already at risk, ethical, legal, human risk. You're shipping injustice at scale." The room went silent again. By evening he was locked out of the system. That night, he drove to the waterfront, where the city lights shimmered against black water. He thought about quitting, thought about how silence had become the company's strongest product. Then he remembered every person whose face the system might misread tomorrow. He couldn't walk away. He decided to expose it. He reached out to an independent tech journalist, Maya Lofton, who'd covered algorithmic bias before. She met him in a quiet diner off Fremont Street. He slid a drive across the table. "These are internal logs and accuracy tests by demographic. It proves the system's bias." She looked at him, cautious. "If this is real, it's huge. But are you ready for what comes with it?" He smiled weary. It already came. She promised to verify before publishing. As she left, he sat alone with his coffee. For the first time in months, he felt something like peace, not because justice was guaranteed but because truth was in motion. 2 days later, the article dropped. Inside Echelon Systems, the algorithm that can't see black faces. It exploded across every platform. Employees whispered. Investors panicked. The board scheduled an emergency meeting. Malcolm watched the chaos unfold online. Part of him was relieved. Part of him knew the storm had just begun. Then came the email, suspended pending internal investigation. He stared at it, unmoving. The company he'd built his life around had now labeled him the problem. Still, he didn't regret it. He printed the article, pinned it on his wall, and beneath it wrote in pen, "Truth is never a bug." Malcolm's suspension email stayed on the screen long after he stopped reading. He thought about deleting it, but he wanted the record. Evidence mattered. Evidence had always been his language. 2 days later he was called to a neutral location downtown, Echelon's way of saying off the record. A small conference room, blinds half drawn. Across the table sat 3 people. Corporate counsel, HR, and an executive vice president who hadn't spoken to Malcolm in months. The lawyer started gently. "Mr. Reeves, we appreciate your contributions. But you've released proprietary data. That violates your NDA." Malcolm folded his hands. "Proprietary or not, those numbers describe real people being harmed." "I couldn't watch it continue." The HR representative sighed. "We understand your feelings, but this isn't the proper channel." He smiled without humor. "I tried the proper channel. It closed its door." The VP leaned forward. "Off the record, the board is considering a settlement, provided you issue a statement clarifying that the article's findings were preliminary." Malcolm heard the unspoken condition, "Retract the truth." He looked at them one by one. "I'm not your liability clause. I'm the reason you know there's a problem at all." The VP's voice hardened. "You're also the reason we lost $23 million in market value this week." Malcolm stood. "Then maybe that's the price of honesty." He walked out, knowing the door behind him might never open again. The next weeks blurred. Protesters gathered outside Echelon's shimmering tower with signs that read, "Algorithms aren't blind, and code can't wash away bias." News channels debated whether the company could survive the scandal. Meanwhile, online support for Malcolm grew. Students from tech programs used his name as a hashtag for open-source fairness projects. He watched it all from his small apartment, gratitude mixed with dread. The attention wasn't comfortable. He hadn't meant to be a symbol, he just wanted the code to be better. Then one evening he received a message from an old colleague, Priya, who had stayed at Echelon. "They're rewriting the internal report," she wrote. "They're saying you altered datasets without authorization. They're trying to make you the flaw." Malcolm stared at the message until the letters blurred. He typed back, "Thank you for warning me. Keep your head down." He closed his laptop and sat in silence. The hum of city traffic below sounded static, like the noise that drowns out signals. A week later he was invited to testify before a congressional subcommittee on algorithmic accountability. He almost declined, he wasn't a politician, but Priya's message kept echoing, "They're making you the flaw." So he went. Under the bright committee lights, he told the story plainly. How he'd warned about bias, how internal reviews had been ignored, how the system's confidence scores were trusted more than human judgment. When a senator asked if he believed the technology was racist, he answered carefully. "Machines don't hate," he said. "They learn from us. If the data is biased, the machine repeats our mistakes, just faster and at scale." The room was quiet. For the first time since the incident, he felt heard. The hearing made headlines. Echelon CEO issued a press release pledging transparency, yet insiders leaked that the company was negotiating with investors to quietly sell its surveillance division. Malcolm watched from afar. The empire he'd helped build was cracking line by line, like a flawed dataset finally meeting reality. Months passed. He began consulting for community groups and universities, teaching workshops on ethical coding. He spoke not with anger but with urgency. "Technology reflects whoever trains it," he would say. "If the teachers are afraid to face their own bias, the students, our machines, will fail every test that matters." He found a rhythm again. Morning walks, lectures, late-night calls with his mother who still asked, "Are they treating you right now?" But peace never came fully. A part of him missed the hum of servers, the thrill of innovation. Another part knew he couldn't go back to a place that saw fairness as a feature request. Then, early one morning, a news alert flashed across his phone. Echelon Systems announces Echelon Vision 2.0, now 100% bias-free. He stared at the headline. They had rebuilt the same product, with new branding and no acknowledgement of what it had cost. Within hours he was trending again. Commentators asked, "Will Malcolm Reeves return to help?" He didn't answer. Instead he opened his laptop and began writing a paper. Not a press release, not a tweet, just a clear, technical manifesto titled Seeing Fairly. He wrote through the night. By dawn his fingers ached, but the words felt right. It ended with a line he hadn't planned: "If truth must break us to rebuild us, let it." 3 weeks later, Malcolm was scheduled to present Seeing Fairly at a small ethics in AI conference. That morning he received an envelope slid under his apartment door. No name, just the Echelon logo. Inside was a short letter. "Mr. Reeves, the company acknowledges that elements of Echelon Vision's first-generation data produced inequitable outcomes. We are instituting independent oversight and an inclusion initiative named after you, the Reeves Protocol. We would be honored if you attended the announcement." He read it twice, unsure whether to laugh or cry. They were naming fairness after him, after pushing him out. He went to the conference anyway, carrying both the letter and his presentation. When his turn came, he stepped onto the small stage. The audience waited. He spoke quietly at first. "I didn't come here to be vindicated. I came here because code is confession. It shows who we are when no one is watching. And if our systems still fail to see every human being with equal clarity, then we haven't coded truth, we've coded comfort." Applause rose, soft but real. He smiled just a little. Afterward he walked outside into the thin winter sunlight. Cameras waited, but he didn't stop for them. He crossed the street toward the park, sat on a bench and watched children chase each other under the bare trees. For a long time he simply breathed. Later that night, news broke that Echelon's board had voted to dissolve its surveillance division entirely. The public statement cited irreparable trust erosion. Privately, insiders said the decision had been influenced by Malcolm's testimony and the unrelenting pressure of public opinion. He read the announcement once, then closed his laptop. There was no triumph in it, only a quiet sense of balance restored. Still, the moment felt incomplete. He knew that somewhere, another company was already promising a safer, smarter system built from the same flawed logic. The work would never truly end. He looked out his window at the city lights. Each tiny glow reminded him of a face, a data point, a story waiting to be understood correctly. He whispered to himself, "Machines don't change the world, people do." A year later, a short film appeared online titled "The Man Who Retaught the Machine to See." It featured interviews with engineers inspired by Malcolm's open-source fairness library. Universities began adding the Reeves Protocol to their ethics curriculum. In the final clip, Malcolm's voice played over images of diverse students writing code together. "Every line you write is a reflection. Write it with empathy. Because one day someone's dignity might depend on your syntax." The screen faded to black. Then a simple caption: "For those who still believe technology can learn compassion." And that's how the story of Malcolm Reeves ends, not with revenge or vindication but with recognition. He didn't win every battle. He did something harder, he changed the conversation. If this story moved you, share it. Talk about it. Because change begins when awareness refuses to stay silent. Please like, share, comment and help us reach 5,000 subscribers.